Okay, I'm going to try this again. This time with music. Because the background music is great. This is the Hua Cheng analysis. If you don't, as usual, if you don't want spoilers, I'd leave now or forever hold your peace. And like last time, I am not an expert in Chinese. I am not a native speaker by any means of the word. Okay, I'm not even fluent. Conversational. I have a very smattering from class. This is in elementary school, and yeah. So if I butcher the opinion every now and then, I'm sorry. I do make a pretty decent attempt. So Hua Cheng is first introduced as a bridegroom, not bridegroom. While Xilian was trying to figure out the whole ghost bridegroom deal. And rather than letting Xilian see his face, because no, hey, here, this gorgeous, beautiful scene. I was happy to see it animated. And he offering his hand and aiding Xilian, being helpful. I think that's Hua Cheng for you. Always out to help his Jianxia. And but then Xilian goes to look at his face and poof, butterflies. And it's the mysterious appearance of Crimson Rain's hot flower. Off from the bat, demonstrating extreme caring and diligence when it comes to his person. Then the next time he is seriously mentioned, it's the gods, don't go near him, he's scary, he likes to try to kill us. Because, there's one thing we're all afraid of, and it's him. And it says, but he's cute, but he's so nice. And those butterflies are cute, but they're deadly, but they're cute. And so, then you meet someone, Hua Cheng, in okay disguise, considering Fuyao and Navang both kind of pegged him to start with, because, I don't know, an attractive young man in all red. How could it be? To be honest, I'm not sure he was attempting to disguise himself super well. And he didn't want to be found out directly, but silly and smart, and apparently so are his former attendants. But yeah, the last one I just listed these traits, but I want to go about this in a smoother manner than I did in the last attempt. So, devotion and diligence is shown right from the get-go. Here's the umbrella, and here, smash. Here you go, you look at my face, goodbye. That. And his, competence, and then seriously the next thing that's well and truly shown is just how competent he is. I mean, it seriously comes across as he knows everything, which, to be fair, when you're 800, when you've lived for 800 years, you have every reason to be to know everything. His chaotic nature, because he really is, I think that shows. I'm not even sure. I wrote it down, but I'm not actually sure how to explain it. Let's see here. I think his chaoticness is in the way he jumps back and forth between his anger and his hatred, of which he has a lot. Not that I blame him. Plus, he's a ghost, not a heavenly official. There's a lot of negative energy that goes into becoming a supreme. And his love of messing with people's heads. He has a definite sense of mischief, which I think goes really well into keeping the "I'm in love with you" shh thing covered up. It's hard to tell what's a joke with him and what's not. And this is chaotic. I'd call this guy chaotic neutral. I don't care how much he loves Celine. He's neutral as fuck. Pardon any dropping of my any French. I try to keep it toned down, but wait. YouTube might censor me or something for one too many F-bombs. No. Honestly, if you've read Heavenly Official's Blessing, I'm assuming you're old enough and mature enough to handle a couple F-bombs. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Chaos. And I don't know. Here's all of these lanterns. That's chaotic in love. We're not chaotic good, chaotic evil. That is chaotic. I am in love and devoted to my one and only God. And that is that's like chaos. I love it. Something else that's really shown early is I'm a supreme. Who in the ghostly world has the right to speak to me? This arrogance, but not unwarranted arrogance. He is a demon king. No, there's 4 people who come even close to being able to scratch him. And so, earned arrogance, I guess. And it's shown again and again, and yeah, unlike Cillian, because he's not the main character, he doesn't get as much screen time. So, the first part especially, I know something that I don't have listed here. And it's not just his devotion to Cillian, but he doesn't just want to worship him. He wants to care for him. It's one of the few times he's ever truly exercised any "you will do this" or "you will not do this." It was in order to protect him and to not let the cinnamon roll intentionally let his reputation be tarnished even more. That's one way in which he is so amazing for Cillian. In return, Cillian keeps Hua Cheng from going too crazy with being. He's a demon king, not a heavenly official. But I think it's really sweet the way he genuinely cares for Cillian. And it's such a huge juxtaposition against his hatred of almost pretty much everybody else. Not always hatred. I think a lot of the other ghosts a lot of the ghosts don't really. They'd have to pop on his radar for for him to hate them. He does not. He just doesn't care. Unless you see him, and if he cares, he probably doesn't like you. And there's likely a alien that's trying to keep him in check. Literally every time he and Nampang and Huyao decide to go at it again. But yeah, moving on from that. The first part does an outstanding job of laying down his base personality. Just repeated traits, his arrogance, his competence, his absolute devotion, and the anger that he sometimes displays. Chirong's lair, Cillian had to work hard to sit, stay. I swear, Hua Cheng's not a dog, but that's kind of the vibe I get. Someone sit, someone stay, someone no kill. And no, someone no making his face one with the concrete or one with the rock. Whoops, no skipping a book. Book 2 is even less screen time than in book 1. Of course, because to start with, he was like 10, and yeah. But I think in a lot of ways, his role in book 2 is his first flashback. He was a catalyst for everything. I swear, he fell off of that roof, and 2 fates were changed. Cillian took one gigantic step towards ascension, and he ended up being endlessly devoted. Honestly, without it, he may not have lived nearly as long. I mean, outside of the falling part. Had he not fallen, based on interactions later in the book, then he may not have lived. And then Cillian wouldn't have a boyfriend, wouldn't have a husband. Which would be very sad for the fandom. And then book 2 it's on Cillian's end. Book 2 is the rise and fall. For Hua Cheng, he book 2 is the cause of devotion. The calling towards that. I love him. I will protect him with everything I have. I live for you. Which Cillian only has himself to blame for that last book. But, I'd be devoted too. Somebody who say I'm quote-unquote malformed, even though I think heterochromia is beautiful. Nobody likes me. People beat the shit out of me. I have no standing whatsoever, and no one treats me right. No one treats me well. And then along comes, I fall off the roof, and this. You gotta wonder what he saw. I mean, we all know what Cillian saw. Is a kid falling off a roof. But what did Hua Cheng see in the face revealed when the mask fell off? And when you think about it, what kind of heavenly savior must he have looked like? a painting, because I can't draw it out. Not my talent. I'm bad at faces. You'd think that, hey, like, the light cast on Celian's face and the robes and the mask falling off and just the kindness on the Crown Prince Celian on his face. What kind of angel must he have looked like to a kid who had nothing? And then a few days later, after, she's wrong, douchebag, then beat him up, shoved him in a sack, tied it behind a cart, and went driving around the city at top speed because he's a douchebag. And then Celian rescues him again. And then when the priest, Manian Ting, yeah, that's that tone. When Manian Ting does his little fortune-telling thing and says, "Ooh, you're lucky, you bring bad fortune everywhere you go." And they blame the spirit fires getting out. And Celian's the only one to sit there and tell this 10-year-old, "It's okay, it's not your fault. You're not bad luck. I'm not scared of you." And that's another. I'd be on my knees, completely devoted too. Because that's the kind of thing that makes a difference. Then later on, he loses track of, at that time, Hua. And then a few years later, right before the war breaks out, the revolution breaks out, he and Celian, Cheng and Hua are sitting invisible in the temple where lucky little Hua is praying, and the way he replaces the flower in that absolute, it's not like he'd really seen much, though we'll get to that point later. It's so, but when he starts praying, "I don't have anything to live for. I want to go kill all of them who are beating the shit out of me, and then kill myself, because I don't have anything to live for. I hate them, and I hate myself." And Celian, the voice calls out, because, let's break the rules or else. Celian's kind of chaotic good incarnate. He will do what he thinks is the right thing. Rules be damned. So and then he says, "If you don't have anything to live for, live for me." And an already extremely devoted youngling is, he takes that seriously. So this is 4 years where there is a strong, devoted from low to high. You are my crown prince, you are my god. I will honor you and revere you for the rest of my life and beyond. And then the war hit. And then the flower demon incident. If you haven't read it, but are here despite the spoilers, it's basically, Celian got caught up by some flower demons. He smelled the fragrance, which, it's designed to arouse passion. This passion can be, It can be of a wrathful variety rather than a lustful variety. But that wasn't going so good, especially since he kind of drew himself I'm staying in here to wait this out. You stay in between this and this. They can't get you. I can't get you. Celian's such a sweetie. He's such a good guy. But, and then in order to get rid of these wrathful and these passionate intentions, I'm gonna stab myself. Problem. So, that's the same sword I may or may not have used to try to cut down these flower demons. So, we got a problem. So the passions ended up gravitating towards the lustful variety. One problem, and he didn't, because he has an outstanding self-control. And just a great guy. The problem is Hua Cheng was around. That time Hungar was around and at an age where he's impressionable in certain ways. At 14 or 15, he's just, yeah. It was at that point when the seeds of romantic and sexual interest were sown, when really did nothing to help his already bad case of I am eternally devoted. And that's, and then I think the last thing, like, it wasn't explicitly said, but the author's note kind of implied that, I'm pretty sure that the, young man that, was on the mountain was Hongar. And so concludes book 2. Back into the real fun stuff. As much as I like backstory, present day is also very fun. So, and this is back to, now we know how he ended up so devoted. Now it goes back into, not really showing much for a bit, because we already know he's devoted. We already know that. It's just, I don't know if any of you, how many of you have seen Hunter x Hunter? I hate his face. But Kilo walks around with his hands behind, lazy-like, hands behind his head, just sauntering, because, he's late. Has very little to worry about, That's the vibe I get from Hua Cheng when he's following Celian around in all of his adventures. Actually, I think my favorite part about the first 10-15 chapters of book 3, it's the devoted, like, this is so adorable kind of thing. I mean, Hua Cheng lit enough lanterns to outdo Junwo. And okay, that was adorable. And then he did it again at the end of the book. And it's so sweet. But I want to I address the way he follows along with, he never really interferes. Outside of a couple occasions, he never interferes. He's just there to protect. And lack of possessiveness that I think really tips their relationship and their friendship dynamic to be a healthier, less toxic side. And we'll say the casualness of his hanger-on is sometimes it seems the way he just hangs around is so casual. So, I'm just here, don't mind me. Oh, poop. Cause protect the Densya. Protect Gugu. And then fast forwarding into the 120s. It was one conversation that I think you'd already seen a little bit. I think it's also worth mentioning that at this point, Hua Cheng had already mentioned that he has someone who is very dear to him. Celine has no clue. To be fair, that's not his fault. Unlike Wei, Hua Cheng is actually doing pretty well at hiding his feelings behind his chaotic jokes. But this conversation at the campfire, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire story. It shows something that you haven't seen yet. Not really. Not in any significant way. Right, not... What's the word? Not extrapolated. Explicit, that's the word. Not in any explicit way. That changes in this scene. Actually, I took the time and hurt my hand in order to write this down because it's worth. This is a conversation at a campfire at the Blackwater Demon Hushan's island, and they're just having a conversation. So I nixed out a lot of the narrative because and I don't read it out loud well. I'm a writer, not a reader out louder. That made no sense. So this is the conversation at the campfire. I'm gonna read it out loud because I actually have a point at the very end when I wrap this up that pertains to this quite well. So Hua Cheng says, oh dear, really? How much did I miss? Really? Really? Annoying. This might be the price of, so I think the comment that starts it is, whoever your beloved is a very lucky person. And Sunlight replies to whatever comment that was with, no. That I could meet that person. It's me who lucked out. Celine replies, Sunlight, just what kind of person is that special someone? How come you haven't won them over yet? It's alright if Gugu finds it funny. Truth is, I'm afraid. What's there to be afraid of? Your Supreme Demon King, the Crimson Rain Salt Flower. What shitty Demon King? If I was really that awesome, I wouldn't have been so powerless when people hung me up and beat me hundreds of years ago. Well, you can't say it like that. Everyone had to go through it to grow up. And then he stops remembering that but prior to his first ascension, he hadn't had anything like that. I'd like to mention that after his first fall, and the Sunlight replies, that person saw me at my worst. Then I'm very envious of that, but I can sort of understand your feelings. There was also a period of time in my life that wasn't easy, and during that time I'd constantly think of someone who should witness, that if someone should witness the me who rolled in the dirt and could still love me for who I was, it'd be great. Still, I don't know if there's anyone like that, and I daren't show that part of my past to anyone either. But if it's someone yearns for, I think even if they saw you at your worst, they wouldn't say something like, you're not that great after all. Okay, irony. There's a lot of irony there. To me, okay, can we, out of taking break, this little saying is one of my absolute favorites. Like, there's a reason I love this scene so much. Celine continues, to me, the one basking in infinite glory is you. The one fallen from grace is also you. What matters is you, and not the state of you. I admire Sunlong very much, so I want to understand your everything. So I am very envious that someone had already met that kind of you. It's an affinity that only comes by chance and couldn't be begged for. And whether if that bond should continue, it's 3 parts fate and 7 parts courage. No, so back to the part. To me, the one basking in infinite glory is you. The one fallen from grace is also you. What matters is you, and not the state of you. What I love is the irony of Celine being jealous of him, being envious. Jealous isn't quite the right word, I don't think. Jealous is green, envy is, in this case, is slightly different. It's not the I want to have something, it's the I wish I could have been that someone. But also, I think, to me, the one basking in infinite glory is you. The one fallen from grace is also you. What matters is you, and not the state of you. I think that encompasses what they're both thinking at the same time. And it's like, if I were to put it as a visual, it's like 2 people standing back to back, thinking the same thing, but not quite seeing each other well enough or communicating well enough to realize that that they're thinking the same thing towards each other. But after that, it got awkward. But what I think is important to someone's character here is the vulnerability. I'm the same person who no one has the right to speak to me. And also has if I were that good, I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have fixed this. I wouldn't have been like this. I find that juxtaposition to be so incredibly interesting because both are true. He is indeed that arrogant, but when he's being vulnerable, when he's actually being open about what hurts, the lack of self-worth. See, in that scene, you have 2 people who don't really think very much of themselves. Not in their core. Someone deals with it by being arrogant and haughty, and they're just chaotic. Cillian deals with it in an opposite manner. He is humble to an unhealthy extreme, prone to make self-deprecating, I hope that's the right word, comments. So I think the parallels and the mirror, there's a lot of mirroring that goes on in that scene. Two people being so honest about where they were in the past and how they feel about that. I love that scene. Move on to the Tonglu, Mount Tonglu arc. Between that's the campfire scene and the start of the Mount Tonglu arc, granted there's not very much, and it starts out with a heated night-long make-out session. It's in this arc that Hua Cheng's hatred of being weak and the scornfulness of his hatred of his past self, you can kind of see it pop up in a little here, where he reverts to a younger him, I guess. He reverts to a younger him to try to contain the power from the opening of Mount Tonglu. But by kind of containing that, he left him kind of helpless. Xilian was having to protect him. Now, Xilian was not complaining because it's so cute. He's so cute. Suddenly he's so cute when he's a kid. And she'll be... Xilian thought he was very cute. Hua Cheng did not think he was cute. He did not like that. But he was very irritated that he couldn't do anything. Because he's taken it upon himself to protect Xilian. And I think to not be helpless. Then other parents, both of them have felt extremely helpless in the past. And that's for book 4. Now the fun part about this book is confession time. At least the, hey Guga, I'm in love with you. Please don't leave me. I don't know, I know it's a product of a lack of self-worth. Self-esteem. He's still looking down on himself as much as he does, but still. Mister, to me, the one in basking in infinite glory is you. The one fallen from grace is also you. What matters is you, and not the state of you. Obviously, it went better than Hua Cheng thought it would be. Especially considering this is where we get into the dynamics. Because it's... See, the point of view you look at it from is whether it's, okay, still a little weird and fanatical, but okay, it passes to the Xilian. I'll distract him, you run. And this is why I made such a point to mention that before anything else, Hua Cheng was Xilian's worshipper. Absolutely devoted as a follower. Because if you spent this long learning to sculpt somebody else's face, one single person's face that you may or may not have romantic interest in, and then entire walls filled with portraits, or not portraits, revealing that, that Hong'er was engaged in some stalkerish behaviors as a kid. Granted, I'm not going to factor that into the current equation because I'm not even gonna factor in that into the current equation. Ooh, it's a kitty. Because it was so long ago, and in that case, age is a consideration. But yeah. I can understand why Mu Cheng and Feng Xian were so me when they saw, because Hua Cheng painted out a lot of the scenes and a lot of the events that he and Celian went through before Celian's second fall. But I'm not going to blame him for this at all or anything, because what else did he have to do? He was stuck in Mount Dongwu for at least a decade. At least. So when you've got that much time and you're that devoted as a follower, because the chapter's Temple of 1,000 Gods, this wasn't a I am in love with you, please screw me, though I'm sure he's, well, no, Sun Lung Tops, it's the other way around. I'm in love with you, please let me screw you. But it's this balance of, then when you're looking at this part, okay, follower, romantic stalker, where does the balance lie? And I find their dynamic to be quite interesting. When talking about romantic novels, I haven't seen any where the love interest is both in love with their significant other, but also an actively devoted worshiper, a devoted active worshiper, because that's a thing. And it's shown throughout the cat. If you attack my feet, did you just tooth me? Distractions. In the form of a psychotic cat. But time and time again, sometimes he shows romantic interest, but more than that, he shows that of a worshiper, and endlessly. So it's hard to tell. I'm gonna call it a gray area and leave it at that. But when Xian saw this cave of 1,000 gods, Xian was deeply afraid that after seeing the paintings and seeing the statues, that a lot of them were messed up, because he was kind of teaching himself how to do this and do the sculpting thing. Despite that, he was terrified that Celian was going to leave him, and Celian didn't. Celian accepted him wholeheartedly. And then you meet the one person that Hua Cheng hates more than anyone else. A being by the name of Bai Wuxiang, White No Face. This White No Face is responsible for the plague that caused so many issues in Qianle. And it's also, Bai Wuxiang was also directly responsible for, in a way, directly responsible for Celian's second fall. In a lot of ways, the torment he went through as a in between his first fall and second ascension. But that scene aired out one of the secrets. I didn't realize this until I'd reread a tear-inducing part of the fifth book. And not all secrets had been revealed. The level of devotion had not yet been revealed to Celian. And this is book 4 is where it's revealed to the reader. And something doesn't get an extreme amount of screen time. Usually when he does, it's generally just referred to as he was. No, I did not put woman. No, I didn't. Oops. Oh. I have a paper that has the opinion written on it. But this is for his character development and for analyzing his character. This is just as this may be the most important book. See, book 4 on a general level is just torment. Like, I cried so hard. See, I spent a lot of the book as a Ghostfire. Basically, a spirit that hasn't moved on, but also doesn't have enough resentful energy to hang around to have a physical form. So it's a ghost form. So it's a Ghostfire, ghost light. He spent some time there, and I think Celian was at his worst there, and I think someone doesn't show it often. And that one scene at the campfire is one of the biggest, I think is that Celian was traumatized by his past. Definitely. And he reacts in his humble Celian kind of way. Sometimes Hua Cheng does a lot better about hiding his own. Especially the stuff concerning the set of events in book 4. But it's there. See, in book 2, he just falls absolutely in love and completely devoted on so many different levels, creating that really complicated relationship dynamic. But when Celian's at his worst, he spends all his time as a Ghostfire. He is unable to fight back for Celian when Celian can't. When a whole bunch of heavenly officials are kicking Celian off of his chosen cultivation ground, he couldn't help. He couldn't fight back. Pretty sure it's those same officials that had issues right after Hua Cheng came out of Mount Tonglu. And he had to watch. He didn't have hands and mouth. He had to just sit there and watch as Xistancia just tripped in a grave and just laid there. For someone who is so devoted to someone, it's... Oh, say hi to the kitty. That's had to have been... Like, I am sure being beaten and abused in his physical form was difficult, and it certainly left his fair share of trauma on him. But I think watching Celine go through this was worse. And then he couldn't save Celine from 100 stabs with a sword. Celine couldn't die, so he just had to sit there and he had to watch. Hua Cheng had to watch. Pippa says hi. Pippa says she doesn't care about Heavenly Official's blessing. Only cares about scratches. But can you imagine being unable to help the one person you love? It was that incident that he cultivated enough resentful energy to take a proper ghostly form. And not too far future after that, he because he will do anything for Celine. Honestly, rather than telling Celine what to do, if Celine says to do something, he will do it. Not that Celine ever does, but killing a whole bunch of people, okay. Not killing a whole bunch of people, okay. Sacrificing himself for Celine because Celine was about to sacrifice himself for shit. Okay, I'll do that instead. And Hua Cheng doesn't have much in the way of morals. Rather than being an immoral bastard, he's amoral. No moral code whatsoever. His existence is simply Celine. What Celine wills. And so I'd say Celine's moral compass is a very strong one. Balances out Hua Cheng's lack of. Then you get to book 5, and another one of my favorite. Hua Cheng and Celine are coming out of the volcano, and they're so Celine doesn't have a lot of spiritual energy, so he has to rely on other beings who have a lot of it. He has to rely on passing. Well, somewhere in the third book, it got to be where the Celine and Hua Cheng's preferred method of passing spiritual energy was lip to lip. So, I'm pretty sure Celine just pulled, they were full out lip lock, and Pei-Ming's, despite his womanizing tendencies, is still, I really, really like him. His comment is, oh, and guess what news was all over the capital the next day? But then in this he continues to show, like, you start, especially the third or fourth time you've read it. Not me at all. I mean, this is my favorite book, like top number 1. You see the vulnerabilities and the trauma left on him, and the Gugu, please don't say that. Gugu, please don't joke about that. Those become more frequent and a little clearer. I think as he's opening up. Because let's admit it, he's not an open person. Hua Cheng has always been, as devoted as he is, let me go back to, he is so afraid of being judged, of being cast off by the one person who ever accepted him as he was, no more no less. That even if it's a little illogical, though I think love and fear neither are ever truly logical, that if in that case, not distracted by the cat again. It's just so cute. Well, he's so scared. Well, in a lot of ways, when dealing with other people, Hua Cheng comes across as an adult, very competent, very in charge, arrogant as fuck. But with Celine, you can actually see the age difference. Because there is an age difference. Not that it matters when you're 800 years old, but there's a 7-year age difference between the two. Yeah, 14-year-old Hua fell in love with the 20-year-old. I'd say it's horrible, except since it's not the other way around. So you gotta leave that particular conversation alone. But you can tell that Hua Cheng can almost feel just how much younger he is. And just, even though it's not really much of a big difference anymore, and how Hua Cheng looks up to Celine. He does not at all hold. There's a definite sense of, you can tell which one's younger after many, many days analyzing and thinking about this. But they're both adults now. They're both more than 800 years old, so. But once the confession happened, I think Hua Cheng was opening himself a little bit more and more and more, because now that he doesn't have to fear Celine leaving, I think one of the more touching scenes in book 5, which is, I think it's a little bit shorter than the other present day ones, is finally asking Celine, don't do that. Please don't do that. And it's like, you can very clearly feel just how much Celine hurting hurts him. I love how that, I think it was wonderfully worked. It really was. And then, once again, he sacrifices himself for Celine. Endlessly devoted, but it had to be done. He gave his everything so that Celine could defeat Bai Wuxiang, or as he is known publicly as Zhenwu. So, but then he sacrificed himself again. He's like, he literally, he's literally fading into nothing. If not for his ashes, which are his only weak point, can't kill the ghost if you can't kill it if you don't have his ashes. You have to destroying the ashes will destroy the ghost. Yeah. But it's only then in which he's finally honest that this was me. That demonstrating. I'm not saying hi. I was with you the entire time. I'm Wu Ming. I'm also that ghost fire. And ghost fire. I'm going to pull that up because I love it so much. He is finally. This is the translation is not by me. Obviously, like I said, I'm not even fluent. I'm not even conversational. Sorry, trying to find the right part. I hope I don't break out into tears. This is your last chance to avoid. Well, that was gone. The woman part was in the last chapter, and I'm not going to go find that because this is in a translated Google Docs. I'm trying to find a good place to start. I think I'll start here. This is after Hua Cheng gives all of his spiritual energy to Cillian to break the shackles that's limiting Cillian's limiting his spiritual energy. They went through so much hardship before all this mess was sorted and all the knots tied. Communication was open between him, Fengxian, and Wu Qing. The cursed shackles that had bound him for 800 some odd years had also been released. Everything he had always wanted to confess to Hua Cheng had all been confessed. Yet when he turned back to run into his arms, face full of smiles, what greeted him was a Hua Cheng who had become like this. And so how could he not be frightened? He just might go mad. Fengxian and Wu Qing noticed something was wrong and called out from afar, "Your Highness, what happened?" "What happened?" They jogged a couple steps this way, then for some reason or another they paused halfway, feeling like they shouldn't get so close so rashly. In this moment, Cillian had stopped caring for anyone else. He gripped Hua Cheng, his heart almost stopping, looking as if he was terrified. "What do I do?" Hua Cheng quietly sighed, extended his arms, and once again folded him into his embrace. "Your Highness, I've always watched you." This was the second time he said this, but his voice was softer than before. Cillian clutched the red ropes at his chest, asking, his mind blank, I know, but what should I do now?" Hua Cheng's long, slender fingers gently combed through Cillian's mussed hair. "Then, Your Highness?" This is important because this is actually repeating something that was said in book 4. "Then, Your Highness, do you know why you refused to leave this world?" Cillian couldn't understand why Hua Cheng could be so calm at a time like this. As he was panicking so hard, he was trembling. But while feeling lost, he still simple-mindedly asked, "Why?" Hua Cheng replied quietly, "Because I have a beloved who is still in this world." Hearing this, Celine was slightly stunned. He seemed to have heard this somewhere before. Hua Cheng continued, "My beloved is a brave, noble, special someone. He saved my life. I've looked up to him ever since I was young. But I wanted to catch up to him more and become an even stronger person for him. Although he might not remember me well. We never really talked. I want to protect him." He gazed at Celine. "If your dream is to save the common people, then my dream is only you." Relying on his memory, Celine asked with a trembling voice, "But you won't be able to rest in peace like that?" Hua Cheng answered, "I pray never to rest in peace." In that instant, all of Celine's breathing stopped, frozen in this moment. He could faintly hear two voices, one questioning, the other answering. "If your beloved knew you couldn't rest in peace because of him, he might feel guilty and troubled. Then I just won't let him know why I haven't gone." That's Hua Cheng for you. "After you're seeing so much, it'd be known sooner or later," Celine said. "Then I won't let him find out I'm protecting him either. That ball of ghost fire, in that lantern night, that weak little ghost fire bought with a few pennies. That ghost fire who had wanted to pull him up from the burial graves in a frozen winter's night. The ghost fire who blocked in front of him before White No Face and wouldn't let him go near danger. The ghost fire who had screamed in torment for him during the time when 100 swords pierced his heart." Hua Cheng said quietly, "Your Highness, I understand your everything. Your courage, your despair, your kindness, your pain, your resentment, your hate, your intelligence, your foolishness. If I could, I would have you use me as your stepping stone, the bridge you take apart after crossing, the corpse bones you need to trample to climb up, the sinner who deserves the butchering of 1,000,000 knives. But I know you wouldn't allow it," he said as the maple red of his robe slowly faded away. He's like, that is so emotional. I think that is the crux of Hua Cheng's character. Is Celine that brave, noble, special someone? As cruel and heartless and immoral as Hua Cheng is, Celine is lucky to have him. Someone who would kill himself before cheating. He can trust Hua Cheng explicitly. Because Hua Cheng is devoted. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great idea to write. I don't think that's not even true. Like, if Celine's defining trait is his kindness and humility, then Hua Cheng is his devotedness. Both as a follower. I just thought of something. Hua Cheng never asked for a romantic relationship. He's so in love and so devoted. And I think that's why I like the Holian pairing. It's because yeah, Hua Cheng is devoted. He's arrogant. He's chaotic. He loves Celine with the same fervor that he hates everything else, or with the same level of love that just. But it works. These two people, so opposite of nature, coming together to form really one of my favorite pairings ever. But that should be it. I don't know what my next video is going to be. I get the feeling it's going to be something along the lines of, it's going to be something along the lines of possessiveness and devotedness. Let's talk about the MXTX's3 pairings. Or possessiveness, devotedness, and loyalty. Because because her pairings are a really good study on that. Also, it's kind of how not to be being her. Thank you for watching this far. I hope this came across a lot better than the last one. I'm not nearly as nervous. Turns out Akita might be right. That nervousness is a product of unpreparedness. Or not being confident in the preparation you've done. I wasn't nearly so nervous. So, bye. I will see you